And Russia had claimed what is now Alaska, and in 1728 they hired a Danish sea captain, Vitus Bering, to discover if where the land bridge was in the past, if they were connected, Russia and the present Alaska connected there. And Vitus Bering took off from Russia way down around the coast, a treacherous journey with no maps of the rocks and things. You get up into that channel, when I call it a channel, 56 feet more than a channel, but up into there, and it was total fog the whole time. He didn't dare go out of sight of shore on the Russian side for fear of hitting the rocks up there, so he explored part ways, decided it wasn't worth the gamble to continue. So he came back to Russia with the opinion that it was separated from the land, now Alaska. And he was ridiculed for that, not, kind of a wimp, you might say, that he didn't go ahead. So he did try that. A few years later, he went up and tried the same trip over again. And they were shipwrecked like he feared. And his crew was on a barren rock island all winter. And several died during the winter. There's no way to rescue them then. And so the next spring they had tools aboard the ship. They made another boat out of the wrecked ship, and they made it back to Russia. And then they were confident that they were separated. And so when you see the name Bering Strait, it's from Vitus Bering, who made the first exploration there for Russia in 1728. And in 1881, Russia published a stamp in honor of Vitus Bering. And when they saw what Alaska was, they had exploration groups going in there, but they saw it as just a desolate area, not much value to it. And at the most there, they had probably 800 people in what is now Alaska. And they went down, usually they'd have about a colony there, maybe 100, 120 people, but that would vary quite a bit. They saw no value there. And so then in about 10 years later, they noticed all the sea otters around and the value of those furs. And up in Alaska, it was like in Siberia, they much denser furs on those animals than you'd find normally in the southern countries. So ships came in there to harvest the sea otters, and also the aleuts they bought from them as well. And of course they bought them pretty cheap from the aleuts, and this eventually got to be a pretty profitable endeavor, so more ships came over. And it wasn't long before the otters were pretty well decimated, pretty well wiped out. And then they happened to see the fox on some of the islands. So they thought, well, this could be a valuable resource too. With all the birds, the seabirds migrating to Alaska to lay their eggs, hatch their young, and fly out again, they thought this would be a nice food supply for the fox. So they brought in some red fox, put them on different islands, and they did very well. Then they also put out some Arctic fox, along with the reds on different islands close by. They found that the Arctic fox did better further north and the red fox further south, so they kind of separated the two breeds then, with the reds to the north and the reds to the south, Arctic to the north. And then they found that some of the fox were a crossbreed, kind of a blue fox, and they're worth about 10 times as much as either red or a Arctic fox. So they got the pairs of those blue fox, put them on separate islands, and they again would raise blue fox. So that was a pretty bountiful harvest for them. And eventually they put in some settlements over winter. So they would stay there over winter and harvest themselves and help promote the population of the wolves and the fox. But this finally gave out as the birds were diminished. They said, well, they've seen the most value of Russia with their new land now. So they, in 1857, the Tsar, maybe I'll stop here again. I'll just